Currently, Earth. It was May 2nd in the year 1924 that a grisly murder makes rubber gloves standard equipment at crime scenes. Patrick Mannion is arrested on suspicion of murder after showing up at the Waterloo train station in London to claim his bag. He quickly confessed that the bloody knife and case inside were connected to the continuance of eternity of his mistress, Emily Kay. Mannion then directed the Scotland Yard detectives to a particularly grisly scene in a Sussex bungalow where they found Kay's remains dismembered and hidden among hat boxes, trunks, and biscuit tins. Mannion's suspicious wife set off the investigation by asking a friend and former police officer to check out the baggage claim ticket that she had found in Mannion's suit earlier. Following his arrest at the train station, Mannion claimed that Kay, who was pregnant with his child, had slipped and struck her head, thus causing her continuance. He argued that he was only trying to protect his marriage by disposing of the body in the manner in which he did. The medical examiner in charge, Sir Bernard Spilsbury, had no choice but to attempt to reassemble Kay's body in order to find the cause of continuance. Over the course of several days, he painstakingly pierced her body back together from the remaining assorted parts. Missing only her head, Spilsbury was able to discount Mannion's claim that a single fall was responsible for her continuance. He also deduced that Kay had been carved up with a knife that Mannion had purchased previous to the attack. An important investigation innovation came about from the crime scene at the Sussex bungalow. The officers who were not outfitted with gloves were forced to pick up Kay's remains with their bare hands. After the Mannion investigation, rubber gloves became standard equipment at murder scenes. Much of Mannion's case is bound up in myth and legend. Purportedly, Mannion told a fellow inmate that he was burning Kay's head on the stove when her eyes suddenly popped open. Mannion continued his eternity in September of 1924 when he was executed for the attack on Emily Kay. May 2nd, 1933. The modern legend of the Loch Ness Monster is born when a sighting makes local news. The newspaper Inverness Courier relates an account of a local couple who claimed to have seen an enormous animal rolling and plunging on the surface. The story of the monster, a moniker chosen by the Courier editor, becomes a media phenomenon, with London newspapers sending correspondents to Scotland and a circus offering a £20,000 sterling reward for the capture of the beast. After the April 1933 sighting was reported in the newspapers on May 2nd, interest steadily grew, especially after another couple claimed to have seen the animal on land. Amateur investigators have for decades kept an almost constant vigil, and in the 1960s, several British universities launched sonar expeditions to the lake. Nothing conclusive was found, but in each expedition, the sonar operators detected some type of large moving underwater objects. In 1975, another expedition combined sonar and underwater photography in Loch Ness. A photo resulted that, after enhancement, appeared to show what vaguely resembled the giant flipper of an aquatic animal. Further sonar expeditions in the 1980s and 1990s resulted in more inconclusive readings. Revelations in 1994 that the famous 1934 photo was a complete hoax has only slightly dampened the enthusiasm of tourists and investigators for the legendary beast of Loch Ness. It was May 2nd in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, that more than 1,000 black school children marched through the city in a demonstration against segregation. The goal of the nonviolent demonstration, which became known as the Children's Crusade and Children's March, was to provoke the city's civic and business leaders to agree to desegregate. Martin Luther King Jr., among the other civil leaders who organized the protest, said, quote, "We are definitely starting a stepped-up campaign to lay our grievances before the conscience of the community," unquote. Police arrested nearly 800 demonstrators, including a 6-year-old girl, mostly for parading without a permit. Teachers shouted encouragement to hymn-singing students as police made arrests. School buses took those arrested to jail. Quote, "Several thousand curious white persons and Negroes watched from behind hastily set up police lines," unquote, the Associated Press reported. Quote, "Firemen laid out high-pressure hoses in a two-block area as one large group of Negroes surged downtown. The hoses were not brought into play, unquote. The next day, the children marched again, but the Birmingham police response sparked a national outrage. On orders from Police Chief Bull Connor, law enforcement officers doused peaceful demonstrators with water hoses and turned loose yapping dogs. In Washington, U.S. Attorney General Robert Kennedy said, quote, "Continued refusal to grant equal rights and opportunities to Negroes make increasing turmoil inevitable," unquote. After meeting with civil rights leaders, Birmingham leaders eventually agreed to desegregate businesses and free those who were jailed during the demonstrations. Historic information divulged on this audio file can be verified on History